It's 5 o'clock. We may as well start now. Welcome to the Planning, Regulatory and Licensing Committee on Wednesday, the 13th of January. Please note that today's meeting will be recorded. This recording may be broadcast on the authority's internet. All attendees will be in view of the camera, and by attending, you are consenting to being filmed and to the possible use of those images and sound recordings being used as outlined. Just to remind everyone briefly, if you don't hear the whole meeting, if you can hear the meeting, if your computer plays up, you can still vote, but if you don't hear all the meeting, then you're not allowed to vote. That's it. We've been through this so many times that everyone knows it now. So the first item on the agenda, apologies for absence. I'm told there's no apologies. The second item on the agenda, declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? No. Do we have a solicitor with us today?
Yes.
Oh, that's good then. Yes.
Hello, Clive. How are you?
Oh, very well, thanks. Yes,
Good.
very well. The third item on the agenda is the application P20-0228, construction of a 9 megalitre 2-cell reservoir and associated engineering, access and landscaping works at Penganddi. I understand David's going to present this case.
Yep, Chair, I will do. Thank you. Let me just share the PowerPoint as well. Okay. So this application relates to an area of land measuring approximately 2.83 hectares, which is situated to the west of the Penganddi Industrial Estate and is adjacent to an existing water reservoir facility. The site itself, which is, as you can see in this plan, includes the reservoir on the right, and then you've got the blue outline, which is effectively the extent of the new reservoir, and the red outline includes additional land as part of the application, which would be used to, during the construction stage. Do this. So there's the existing. Where's my mouse gone? There's the existing reservoir there, and the new reservoir will be located to the one side. So as you can see, the site itself mostly comprises of grassland, which actually forms part of the wider Merthyr Common. So planning permission is being sought for the expansion of the reservoir facility to increase its water storage capacity with the construction of a new 9 megalitre 2-cell reservoir. And as you can see, this is the location of the new reservoir. The water storage tank itself would have a footprint of approximately 50 metres by 61 metres and would be largely constructed below the ground to a maximum depth of 6 metres. There would be grass embankments provided on the sides of the structure itself to further conceal it. And on the southern side of the reservoir, there would be a service area and valve housing, which is this little block here. And the top of the reservoir itself would have a gravel surface. In essence, it will largely look very similar, albeit a different shape to the existing reservoir, which I'll show some photos of in a bit. The existing access track as well, if I just go back, you can see at the moment the access comes in off Penganddi Industrial Estate, and at the moment it just goes in and around the existing reservoir. It's proposed that this will be extended further down to provide access to the new reservoir, and there'll be a small area at the bottom where vehicles can park and turn around. It's been identified by the drinking water inspectorate that there's a need for this, and they've instructed Welsh Water to increase their storage capacity of their existing facility, in essence to avoid sort of potential problematic water shortages in the future. As part of the application process, there were no objections received as a result of the publicity or consultation exercises. However, I should point out, since the writing of the report, we have now had a response back from Brecon Beacons National Park. In the report, it indicates that there was no response, but we've now received that, and they did not raise any objections to the proposal. In terms of the planning merits, the principle of development is acceptable, and as I say, there is a need for it, which has been adequately justified in the countryside location. Alternative sites were also reviewed as well, but largely discounted because they required significant works in order to provide suitable connections. And this site was strategically located given that there's an existing facility there which connects to a number of other places as well. Whilst the proposal itself would result in the loss of some common land, it should be noted that a separate application outside of the planning process has been submitted to the Planning Inspectorate under the Commons Act to release that common land, and as compensation they are offering Welsh Water offering additional land which is of a larger area. As far as I'm aware, I've spoken to somebody at the Welsh Government who has indicated that they're reviewing it, and as far as I've been aware by the applicant, there's not been any concerns raised from the Commoners Association, albeit they haven't sort of made any representations to this application. It's noted that the site itself, the development, is located in the Blaenmore Ice Sink, which is a site of importance for nature conservation, and it's close to other similar designations in the area. As part of the application, it's been demonstrated that the development would not have a significant ecological impact, and that in fact there are some features which they will introduce which are of benefit. So of point on that is we've got an existing pond to the south of the site. They reviewed whether there was great crested newts in the area because the habitats were suitable for such. However, it was established that there are no great crested newts here, but these red circles here indicate some hibernaculars, so they're like sort of habitats created for and to encourage great crested newts in the area. So in that regard, NRW are generally supportive of the application and welcomed those mitigations. A landscape and visual impact assessment was carried out. This demonstrated that the proposal would not cause harm on the character or the quality of the landscape. And in this regard, the reservoir would, as I've said, would be largely constructed below ground. So not much of the development would be visible from long distances. And where it is visible, it would be seen in the context of the adjoining industrial estate and the existing reservoir facility itself. Furthermore, it's been demonstrated that the site is of has low potential for any archaeological remains to be found within the site of any value, and it was demonstrated that the integrity of the historic landscape would not be significantly affected by the development. The proposed development would be accessed, as I say, from the Pengandy industrial estate, which is already well used by large vehicles, and so it doesn't pose any there's no highway safety concerns in that respect. And in terms of local amenity, it's expected that during the construction phase that there may be some disruption in the area, as you might expect for a development of this size. However, there is a condition to restrict those construction hours, which will hopefully minimise such impacts during the construction phase. Once the development is completed and it's operational, as much the same as it is now, it's unlikely to be any impact on residential amenity. And it's worth noting in this regard that we haven't had any objections from local residents. There is, I think, I would say 3 or 4 properties in general proximity. There's one to the west, which is near you'll know of the dilapidated structures sort of here. There's a residential property further up, I think it's a Mr. Brogden, and there's 2 further on the other side of St. Mary Meet. There's 2 residential properties over there. So as you can see, they're quite at some distance away from the site in any case. As such, on this basis, it's recommended that the application be granted permission subject to the conditions set out on pages 14 and 16 of the report. And I'll just go through some more slides there just to give you a better understanding of the proposal. So this is a couple of sections going through the site. So the top one is crossing the site from north to south, and you can see that the back end of the site, it does generally slope down north to south, and you can see the back end of the reservoir would largely be below ground, and as it comes to the front, the only part really that's exposed would be the entrance into the service area. The section below is essentially going from east to west through the storage tank, and again you can see it's largely buried, and in some cases the ground is slightly raised just to further conceal the structure. So this is a couple of views of the existing facility and how you would get to the site. So the photo on the left, that's at the main entrance into the existing reservoir. So as you can see, in a similar manner to the current scheme, it would have grass embankments around the sides, so it just blends in more with the landscape. And the photo on the right, this is from the western side, roughly in the location of where the proposed reservoir is, and you can see again the sort of the nature of what the proposal would be in terms of the front part of the site being sort of embanked into the ground. This is a photo to the south, so this is the pond I referred to, and you can sort of see a bit of the fence line to the left of the image there, and that's essentially the extent of the proposed development. And you can see in that view there are industrial units, retail units, and I think that's Tricati in the back there. The photo on the right is a views from the site to the north. It was a bit foggy at the time, but you can see that the views are generally a bit limited, and because of the sort of rolling profile of the landscape, that actually the development is largely screened from the ground surrounding. So this is just a short video just to give you a better feel for the surrounding, which shouldn't take too long. I hope that streamed okay for everyone.
Yes, thanks.
Okay. So yeah, as I say, it's recommended the application be granted permission, subject to the conditions on page 14 and 16. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Are there any questions? Clive Jones?
Thank you, Chair. It's on page 8. I'm not against this. I'm not objecting to this application, but under the heading of Principle of Development on page 8, second paragraph down, it says the proposal is for an additional reservoir that is necessary for Welsh Water to address the requirements from the Drinking Water Inspectorate to increase the storage capacity of the existing facility and avoid potential problematic water shortages in the future. I was always under the impression that all our drinking water would come straight from the reservoir, having gone through the process of the waterworks, essentially to clean the water out. But obviously this has been here for some years. So is it a normal practice to have something like this, an additional underground reservoir, not only here in Merthyr Tydfil and elsewhere, as a backup for a drinking water supply? Thank you.
I mean, I'm not sure what their normal policy is in terms of how they manage their water systems, and in this instance, they've informed us that they've been told that they need to increase the amount of drinking water that they are storing. and I guess this is makes it sort of some sense in that there's an existing facility there. I don't think it serves just Merthyr. I understand it serves other areas as well. There's a pipeline system, I guess, that connects to, which is one of the reasons why they chose this site for its strategic location. But as to whether it's normal practice, I couldn't really answer that. I mean, this is the first kind of proposal of this nature that I've come across personally.
So, is it there, and the requirement for this to be enlarged in the event of a drought, a severe drought, so that the area would have essentially a backup for drinking water? Is it what I'm trying to get? Is it something the water's only held there for a short term and then it's released in the pipework for consumption, or is it there for an event that might happen only once in a blue moon?
That's not something they've explained. They haven't explained whether it's needed for any sort of emergency events. They've just indicated that there's a need to have additional storage capacity. So I guess to some extent that would take into account if there was a drought, that they have additional water there available, as well as for general use.
Was there another question, Clive?
No, Chair, that's it. Thank you.
Declan had his hand up at one time.
Lovely, thank you, Chair. Just on that first, before I ask my question, Clive, I think 2 or 3 years ago when we had a really, really hot summer, I believe that reservoir was nearly empty and they had to come and pump water into it from tankers. So that's probably why. My question is, it's just a little one. It's the construction of a new 9 megalitre tank. What's the capacity of the one that's there now?
I haven't been given details of the existing capacity of the facility there. If I just draw your attention to the slide, going a bit slow. Can you see that now? The site plan?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, based on the visuals of that they're fairly similar. I suspect the proposed one is probably slightly bigger given the shape of it. But as I understand it, it's of a similar construction. In terms of it being buried into the ground as well.
Thank you, David. That was all. It was just a little question. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? No. Are there any comments?
I've got my hand up for a question, Chair.
Oh.
I don't know if you can see it.
Oh, I couldn't see it. No. Okay, carry on then.
Right. Thank you, Chair. Declan, you just asked one of my questions, so thank you for that. Just one other quick question, David. You mentioned earlier, as this has been on common land, it has to go through Welsh Government for approval. Should there be a condition in there on stating that the works can't be started until they've had formal approval from Welsh Government? Well,
I think the planning permission is a separate permission to what the planning inspectorate would grant, but they obviously wouldn't be able to start development until they've got the approval from the planning inspectorate or the Welsh Government. I think the planning inspectorate sets it and then the Welsh Government approve it. I mean, we could put an informative on there to say you need to seek that consent, but in this instance, they've already applied for that permission. They're already in the process, and I believe there's currently a recommendation from the planning inspectorate to the Welsh Government before them. So I don't know what that recommendation is, but I had a short conversation with a representative of the Welsh Government who was just asking about the application, and they indicated that they would be making a decision soon after it's been determined what the outcome of this application is because that has, from their point, a significant material consideration for them as well.
No, it was just a general question of whether that needed to be in there, because I couldn't see any reference in there. Okay, thank you, David.
Councillor Barrett. Howard.
Sorry, Chair, I was on mute. On the top of question on page 8, it says it's outside the settlement boundary. Has that got? I know it says on the country, it goes to the countryside then, infrastructure, but has that got to be approved by the Welsh Assembly as well?
So, in terms of the policy, obviously development outside the countryside, in the countryside location, is restricted to but there are certain exceptions to what are allowed. So, for instance, recreation uses are typically allowed, and it also includes infrastructure development. So this would fall in that category. So the only reason you would need to escalate a decision is if it was a departure from the local plan. But in this case, it's not. It complies with policy SW4.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions? I can't see any on the screen. No. There's no questions. Any comments?
No comments, Chair.
No. Oh, Councillor Colburn.
Oh.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to say this is obviously a much needed local resource. So I'm fully in favour of it, and I'd like to propose the motion.
Right. Is there a seconder?
I'd second that.
Fair enough then. Well, we'll put it to the vote then. We'll do the same as in the council meetings. Is anyone abstaining? Put your hand up if you're abstaining. There's no abstentions. No. Put your hand up if you're against the motion. No.
None, Chair.
And all those in favour, raise your hands now.
That's carried, Chair.
That's carried then. Thanks very much. The next item on the agenda item 4, application number P200235. So conversion of a house in Trevethick Street into 2 one-bedroom flats. I understand David Cross is going to take us through this proposal.
David, sorry to bother you. Before you present this, can I make a motion? I know it's this is a bit odd. Can I make a motion to have this deferred until I'm thinking the 10th of February, until a report is brought by the regeneration department and the housing department. I believe members don't know all the facts behind this this application, and while it's strictly not a planning matter, those issues, I think members should be informed of exactly of everything involved in this issue, in this case.
Yeah. What's the legal position for that?
Yeah, I mean, Councillor Salmon has made the motion that it be deferred. Someone would need to second it, and you'd then need to vote on it.
Yeah, fair enough. Is there a seconder to defer it?
I'll second, Chair.
Just a query, Chair. I'm not opposed to this, but will there be a report going to, I presume, a full council meeting on this, Councillor Salmon?
Well, in the reason I've asked for it to be deferred is in the in the governance meeting yesterday, scrutiny meeting, certain things came to light that I didn't know about it, and I don't think any other councillors knew either, and I think they should. Now, Geraint Thomas, the cabinet member, has said that a report will be going to council, so he didn't say exactly when. but I think that he's been hinting at something coming in regards to this issue since November, December last year. So I do think it will be soon. And after this meeting, I will contact him to say it does need to, the report does need to come to full council as soon as possible. And I think the next full council that it could come to will be the 3rd of February, followed the week after then on the 10th by a planning meeting.
Thank you.
Can I just be clear then, Councillor Salmon, that your motion is to defer it to the next planning committee?
I'm going to say that I'd like it deferred until after Councillor Geraint Thomas, the Regeneration Department and the Housing Department bring a report to full council. Also with this issue, I don't think anyone's going to lose any money. Because I don't want to say too much, to be honest, because in case it gets picked up by media or something like that, I don't want it to come across in the wrong way. But it's got ramifications for every ward and for every member, and I think they should be have full facts.
Yeah, that's fine, Chair. I mean, when it comes back to planning committee, you do have to determine it on its planning merits.
I completely agree, and that's why I'd like it to the report to go to full council first, so that everyone's aware and they can put their views across there.
Yeah. So Councillor Salmon has made the motion. Did we have a seconder, Chair? I think we'd had Councillor Jones seconded it.
Yes, Hugh Roberts has got a comment, a question. Hugh?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I just think we need to be careful that we haven't got an end date. I'm not quite sure what the report Councillor Salmon is talking about, and I'm not quite sure what it entails, but we can't defer an application indefinitely for something we might or might not happen. It seems, as Geraint, as the solicitor said, I think if it was for the next to come back to the next committee, that's fair enough, but I don't think we know when or if a report is going to be submitted to council. I'm not sure of the actual content of that report, but we will still have to deal with this application on its own merits, no matter what that report says on its own planning merits. The planning merits of this case are simple. It's a conversion of a house to 2 flats. That's the planning issues. So I think we may put ourselves in a difficult position if we defer this application indefinitely for something that we don't actually know what the report is going or when it's going to committee.
Okay, could I
make a suggestion, Councillor Salmon, that it be deferred pending that report, and that should no report be presented to full council, it comes back to planning on the 10th of March, whatever.
I think 10th of February, to be honest, because I think this issue would need to be done by the end of March, because there's grant monies involved.
Right, so it's coming back to the 10th of February, whatever.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Irrespective of whether it's gone to full council.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's been proposed and seconded that it be deferred. Are there any questions on that now? Are there any comments? We'll take it to the vote then. Are there any abstentions? No.
No.
Is there anyone against the motion? No. Well, all those in favour of deferment, raise your hand then, thanks.
There's one vote missing. Oh, that's all carried, Chair.
Okay, thanks very much. Then it's been carried that this application be deferred. The next item on the agenda, item 5, I think, let me just get to it. Oh yes, agenda item 5 is just an information report of delegated decisions. And I've got no urgent business. Has anyone else got any comments? No? Oh, well, we'll declare the meeting closed then.